When we basically signed up for the conference, we thought a little bit about what to talk about, and the practical realities of Scope 3 sounds a little bit drier, but also from the practice side, because right now I think we are a little bit in a change of time. Many regulations are moving in, more guidelines. Consultants like us, clients, NGOs, all are struggling. I mean, you have to be aware of news every day, what comes next. So it's all a little bit also exhausting, and to do not lose sight of the important realities in the field. Our ambition is a little bit in this short 15 minutes to inspire also a little bit of discussion, maybe in the roundtable and later on also some challenges we see in the field. I'm doing this together with Christoph Thölenjohann, who is a very experienced sustainability consultant from our Frankfurt office close by. I myself am based in Zurich. I am one of the co-founders of Sustainserv. We started in 2001 from Zurich and Boston, actually. Just a few words on us. Inspiring meaningful change is a slogan which gets me up, or has been helping me getting up every morning for more than 20 years now. And I think many of you help me also to find purpose in what we do. And so that's a great opportunity to share, obviously, insights and experiences. We are currently more than 25 people, based in Frankfurt, Zurich, Boston, and Nashville. So we are still an independent boutique consultant. They are getting more rare these times, but we still are. And in one thing, for 17 years, we have been really helping clients to publish more than 400 sustainability reports, which makes us, according to Corporate Register, as one of the leaders in that field. What is also the nice thing is that we have many long-term clients like Geberit or State Street in the US, from larger to smaller companies, and we were able to help them on strategic topics, on implementation and monitoring, to, as I said, reporting and communication. But what is really interesting when you're doing that is that you obviously learn also a lot along those journey, what is really needed and where the challenges are also of companies who are not leaders necessarily, but who are followers or have these days just to comply with the strictly growing regulation everywhere. So a few thoughts. One I phrased, who will escape the pull of SBTi? I mean, when I look at the statistics on the SBTi Science-Based Targets webpage, and I did that 2 years ago, it was maybe 1,000 companies committing, and all of a sudden this summer it went over 6,000. I thought, wow, this is now really exponential growth. I think Carbon Trust discussed it already in the morning. It seems also that the list of companies who withdraw their commitment also is rising, so it's a little bit unclear, but in the end it's an exponential growth. And I think what typical clients who approach us see is that they want to please their investors, they want to please clients. If a large company like Walmart, or in Switzerland Migros or Rewe or so, asks thousands of suppliers to commit to SBTi, I mean, this is a wave of dynamics for many small and medium, sometimes also midterm companies who are under pressure all of a sudden. And that's quite something for them. And then they are confronted with do an SBTi commitment where the Scope 3 numbers give us a product carbon footprint. If you have thousands of products, this is not so easy. So the context is it's really demanding. And I think I see it, I don't know how you see it, but the feasibility analysis to really think this through, is this feasible for us, at what time frame? Are we already ready to sign up for science-based targets, something like this? Most of the companies have not enough time to do that. So in the end, it's the board of directors or the top management who decides and says, let's do it, we risk it, or I'm no longer here in 4 years, I don't know. But this is really a dynamics which is interesting. It can also be, I'm a little bit skeptical sometimes, that what happens if many companies who signed up will not reach their goals. I mean, there are different scenarios possible that this could endanger the whole dynamics in the field as well. So, and obviously, needless to say, a regulation like CSRD is coming in with big power and makes even more fire, so to speak, in this topic. One thing I hear not so much about, but it's only when you then really talk with clients through, is the growth challenge in a science-based targets world. And I think we had this excellent talk from Holcim this morning. I mean, you must have also have these thoughts. What happens if you're a growing company? Because SBTI in the end, all technical realities aside, is about absolute emissions, bringing that to zero, because that's what we need, right? So for many managers, it's anti-intuitive to have something in absolute emission values. They always ask us, isn't there a relative KPI per production unit and so on? That's the thinking, and it's not there. This is a big problem, I think, and it's not really talked about. Especially, I think, if you, for example, in your production heavily depend on natural gas or oil, or in the scope 3 category 1, the materials you're buying, these are the biggest obstacles when you then want to commit to science-based targets and really go for it. Because if you're a growing company, I mean, you can do a lot to reduce maybe per production unit. But if you are a company growing by factor 5 or 10 in the next 10 years, it's pretty demanding here. So we are facing even some companies who are actually sustainable product leaders. So every product they put out might be better as one competitor's product. So in the end, they are doing something good. But if they are successful because of this, and they need more and more material to deliver the market, they cannot really sign up to science-based targets. So what's next? What happens to these type of companies? They cannot sign up. And we have a couple of really very sustainable companies in the product world where they are restricted to that, and investors and others do not really understand why this is a problem. So I had good discussions at the Carbon Trust Roundtable with colleagues from Andu and so on. I would wish for a little bit more openness also with carbon removal and other net zero goal approaches. For me, I'm glad that science-based targets is successful as a person, but I also see we should talk about alternative routes to a long-term goal here. But obviously that's not up to me. Another problem I see is a cultural challenge. When we have a normal company, they start doing scope 3, then you all know because of the regulation, the board of directors is liable now. And then they ask, and then the reporting, the first draft comes by, and they see, oh, why is this 10 tons higher or lower than the value of last year, something like that. When you maybe have to explain, hey guys, this was a spend-based analysis, and the error margin on the result might be as high as the value itself. I mean, I'm a little bit provocative here, but it's really... most of us know that from screening to a really activity-based inventory, like measuring the tons of influx of materials into a company very precisely, it's sometimes a long way to go. And when you start with screening, You might have data because many companies have purchasing data ready, but it might be much less accurate. We are currently, maybe some of you have done this as well, but if you try different databases on the same kind of spend-based data, it's kind of amazing what different results you can get, which teaches you quite a bit about the volatility of this Scope 3 game here as such. So my recommendation would be, and would also be great to discuss this with some of you, it really needs also a good communication and information to decision makers what the context of this is. This is not clear to most people who are used maybe to Scope 1 and 2 results, which might be very precise and audited and everything. And then comes Scope 3, which is it's a much, sometimes much different game. Two slides quickly on, if you do the work of Scope 3 analysis, wouldn't it be good to get more information out of it than just a Scope 3 emission value? And we are collaborating with our friends of Control S in Berlin, which in my understanding have a leading spend-based analysis tool for that. And two quick ideas is, one is that you can use the same data, the spend data, to analyze also environmental impacts in a screening mode for the relevant CSRD environmental impacts. So not just emissions, but also biodiversity and others. We are doing many materiality analysis for companies. We are looking for facts in the supply chain. This is a great value to profit also from a proper, and I would say smart, Scope 3 analysis. Next thing, it can also be used to do a strategic analysis of carbon border adjustment mechanism calculations, so that you can really look from spend-based data, where does it come from, where does it go to, what is the tax, so to be, that you can plan around those things. That can also be an additional value of a leading Scope 3 analysis.
Good. So I would just quickly give you some examples from our clients. One is Dufry, where we did the science-based targets, and we helped them to calculate their Scope 3 emissions. So there you can see majorly they have in category 1, their purchased goods and services, approximately 1.6 million tons of CO2, which is about 90% of their whole balance sheet. So here, it's the supplier engagement for them to reach their goals when it comes to carbon reductions. Next is an automobile dealer in Switzerland who has in category 11 the use of sold products, the highest emission balance, as many cars are fueled with conventional diesel and petrol cars. So here it's a collaboration with the producers to get the environmental shift to more electric cars. But here you have the next challenge: how will be the electricity from the local grid will be decarbonized in the future?
Last example, we also work for many different sectors. Mid-size energy utility, they were well on track on all Scope 1 to 3 emissions, science-based target compatible. And then in our first analysis, we found out, oops, they own 20% of a much larger energy utility. Many energy companies do that to secure their energy food chain, if you will. And they end up, if you take 20% of the Scope 1 and 2 emissions of that that larger company, you end up with a multiple of the overall emissions of the rest of the company. And what I see in practice is that the investments, the financed emissions, are sometimes getting forgotten when you commit to SBTi and when you realize, hey, we have also a package there to handle. Also an interesting question. Last slide, 3 simple takeaways. I suggest to develop a culture on how to handle and communicate the topic Scope 3. That would be very interesting. If you're interested in that, we should talk at the roundtable. It's also think about getting the most of your Scope 3 analysis, so just not carbon emission data, but maybe other environmental impact data. That would be great. That would be a side benefit of it. And then I think it would be good, and I was struggling to use the word honest, but I said we need a broader and more honest discussion, I think, on how to handle the growth problem with regard to climate targets. Because if we do not find good answers for that, we leave out many companies who cannot play the game, and I find that kind of not realistic to reduce that to the number of companies who actually fit into the present SBTi scheme. So hope this is a little bit food for thought, and happy to discuss. Thank you very much.
Thanks.